So yeah, let's talk about Dallas, a team that does confuse me a bit, not necessarily in a bad way, but there's a few things. So defensively, they've been great lately. I think they now have the fourth best defensive rating in the whole league, and it's not impossible to be a great defense without having a Defensive Player of the Year candidate or whatever, but it does make it more difficult, right? I think Jason Kidd really changed the culture defensively. I highlighted some of this against the Bulls where it's like Tim Hardaway Jr. is fighting around the screen and he's like staying on Levine's back, and then Maxi Kleba is dropping, but he's like kind of stepping up first and then dropping with Levine, and it kind of forces him into this uncomfortable mid-range jumper. And the way they brought double teams on Ja Morant on the baseline while Luka was defending the opposite corner, like in the perfect spot to where the passing lane wasn't really there for either one of the two shooters. Luka also has been way better defensively. There is something to say about his shooting struggles, and we'll get to that, but defensively, I mean, there was a play against OKC last night where he brought a double team on SGA and almost forced SGA to half court, and then he had like a really good closeout. I, of course, was not a fan of the Jason Kidd hire, but so far, at least on one side of the floor, the dude's been really good. And it is working out, but I, again, am like, are they really the fourth best defensive team in the league? I don't know. That's the first question I have. And I do think it's also interesting that I've seen some Miles Turner rumors for them, although there was also a report about how they're out of that now. But to me, that's the type of thing where they're like, yeah, we also don't know if we're the fourth best defensive team in the league. Should also be said that a Porzingis Miles Turner frontcourt is possibly a little awkward. I mean, the rim protection's there, but somebody's got to defend a non-center. And in a perfect world, you can put that guy on a dude who can't really shoot, but it's easier said than done. The other thing, though, with the Dallas trade is that it's like, for the money to work, it's got to be like some Dwight Powell or Tim Hardaway Jr. or Reggie Bullock, and I just don't know if teams are going to be lining up to take those guys on. Of course, you can throw in Jalen Brunson, a first that's available to you in, I think, like 2026, and Josh Green or whatever for a young talent, but even then, it's like if you got to lose Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's been one of the few dudes who can really do something off the dribble and everything besides Luka. And this is another reason why this team confuses me, is that it's like, even with how good their defense has been recently, the offensive struggles are still a thing. I mean, Luka has not helped their case recently because he's been missing a lot of jump shots that usually you feel okay enough about, a lot of the step backs, but also he's been posting up more often, some turnaround jumpers, floaters that are not dropping, and he'll make these shots eventually, but I don't want to imply that he hasn't still been great. I mean, his passing is still elite, his defense has been better. Sure, the efficiency is not where you want it to be in every game recently, but he's still Luka, he's still a massive positive. I think that's pretty obvious. Even outside of that, I mean, we remember the spacing not always being as good as it was under Carlisle, or the offense just being a bit more post-up happy, and that's another thing. I mean, Jason Kidd's been willing to let Porzingis and Luka work in the post more often, and is that a good idea as opposed to just a bunch of Luka pick and rolls? I mean, Porzingis' free throw attempts were pretty high before he missed like 7 games in a row or whatever recently. So I don't know, and that's where I keep coming to with this Mavericks team. I don't know. There is a chance that they're just a great defensive team and Luka's missing a few too many jump shots and he'll get that figured out and suddenly they're a force that is like a buzzsaw going into the postseason. Or is it more so that they're actually the, 10th best defensive team in the league, which is good, and maybe they're 13th or 14th in offense with the idea of they just make more open threes, because that's been a problem for them this season as well, in which case they're not as frightening. I mean, given how good Luka's been in the playoffs, they're scary kind of no matter what, but there's a clear difference there. So that's all the nitty gritty. As far as, I guess while I'm here, let's zoom out and think about how can Dallas become a title contender one day? Because of course, with Luka and guys of that level, you actually can have that conversation with this type of team, right? Well, they will have cap space in 2024. It's not enough for a max contract as of right now, but if you could get off of like Reggie Bullock's money, or the Hardaway Jr. contract would be the rough one to get off of at that time if he's still on the team, if you were all in on trying to sign somebody. The elephant in the room, though, when you look at the Mavericks cap sheet for 2024, is that Porzingis has a player option. My guess is that Porzingis would accept that, because I don't know if he's going to get $36 million on the open market. I mean, maybe somebody would throw a max at him no matter what, But also, I mean, we saw the way it ended with him in New York. And sure, I have not gotten the sense that it's been a bad relationship with him in Dallas or whatever, but you just never know with this stuff. If we fast forward a year and a half, what could happen? So the max contract acquisition could be a thing in 2024 for these guys. Besides that, I don't know if they ever are really going to have the trade assets to acquire whoever the next big name player becoming available is. I mean, just go down the roster. Like Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell, Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber. You're not getting a star player for these guys. Now, if you include like every single draft pick you can possibly include for the next decade or something, then that opens up your possibilities a little bit more. But if you just want to think about it from that scope of like when will they get the second superstar with Luka, I don't know if it's coming. I got to be honest with you. But as far as this season, they're good on defense, and if Luka can get back to what he normally is, then hey, that's a scary team.